So many of my friends are busy. They're exhausted. They're doing all the things, and yet somehow not feeling satisfied or settled or content. One friend has had a painful shoulder that prevents her from kayaking or sleeping well. No time to do the rehab. Another friend wants to lose weight but is continually derailed by her active social life, too busy to make a food plan. Their days are full of activity, but it isn't intentionally oriented towards what they really want. They take care of everyone else's needs and react to whatever feels urgent, and then jump at the latest distraction, like a glass of wine or booking a trip, scrolling their phone, getting a massage. These might sound like self-care, but they choose it because they're kind of pissed that their life is so freaking overwhelming. I mean, it's kind of payback. But what if the problem isn't that you need more rest or more motivation or another break? What if the real missing piece is self-discipline, not as a punishment, but as self-care? By the end of this podcast, you'll learn about the ancient yogic concept of tapas, which has nothing to do with Spanish appetizers, by the way, and three ways how this deeply passionate practice can help you ditch the exhaustion and begin deeply caring for yourself. Welcome to the Midlife Reset Podcast. This is episode number 49. I'm your host, Cheryl Gordon, creator of the She Mindfulness program and yoga therapist for over 20 years. My friends and my midlife women clients aren't lazy. They're not unmotivated, and they're not bad at follow through. They are actually over responsive. They respond to other people's needs, the loudest request in the room, the newest idea or program or supplement or shiny solution, or just whatever feels urgent in the moment. And over time, something really painful happens. They stop responding to themselves. And this is how you can be constantly busy and still feel like you're failing at your own life. So let's break down the solution. We've been sold a very limited idea of self-care, my friend. We think of self-care as things like pedicures and spa days and getting away on vacation and other moments where you treat yourself with that glass of wine or a bit of chocolate. And all those things are lovely, of course. We deserve and we should seek pleasure. The issue is when we use these fixes to buffer the disappointment or the frustration, our loneliness, our confusion, exhaustion, fear. These are constant companions as we enter midlife, aren't they? There is more anxiety these days. You're not imagining it. Of course, it's got to do with the large shift in hormones, doesn't everything? But these distractions will not change your life. They are just distractions. Even taking a yoga class, which I hope you do, can be symptomatic of what we call spiritual bypassing. And I see this a lot in my world. People do lit practices like yoga and meditation, they go to retreats. But back in everyday life, they still feel fear as to how to navigate the grief, the anger, the loneliness, the boredom, the relationship challenges that happen at our age. And I freely admit that I fell into this category for decades. There was like yoga Cheryl, and then there was like party Cheryl. Psychologists call the resulting confusion and conflict in the mind as cognitive dissonance. And this happens when we really believe and value one type of behavior, like being a yogi, but then engage in a conflicting type of behavior like drinking way too much wine. So, spoiler alert, this will factor into one of our three strategies later. And it's digging myself out of cognitive dissonance and lovingly embracing tapas that help me find direction. I'm embarrassed to admit, all the way into my 60s. And I can help you discover what you really want and how to rearrange your life to support that change through my She Mindfulness program. Keep listening and I'll explain more of how it works. So, ready? Truth bomb. No, seriously. True self-care is structural. It's not about escaping your life. It's about building one you don't need to escape from. Now, let me say that again. True self-care is structural. It's not about escaping from your life, getting away from it all. It's about systematically building a life you don't need to escape from. Right? Don't we all say that to each other? I just got to get away. What do you got to get away from? This is our lives, girlfriend. Yeah. So, what is real self-care? It's knowing what you actually want. It's protecting that dream with your time and energy and showing up for the small, boring, unglamorous steps, even when no one is watching, even when no one is affected but you. I know we think of self-discipline as, being white-knuckled, forcing yourself, harsh, rigid, um, judgment, like what's wrong with me that I can't stick to this? And that, in my opinion, is self-aggression. And in what universe does yelling or name calling or threats of physical violence or denial of affection yield any positive results? That really sounds like old school parenting, spare the rod, spoil the child kind of stuff. Isn't that out of fashion? And yet, this is how we treat ourselves when our shoulders ache in the middle of the night, rupturing our sleep cycle, or when the scale is up again this week. So let's reframe self-care and ditch our preconceptions about self-discipline. Now, this is where tapas comes in. Brief dive into yoga philosophy here. Tapas is one of the niyamas. This is one of the limbs of the eight-branched tree of the classical yoga practice. These kinds of practices are hardly mentioned in your hot yoga class, but they have always been considered to be fundamental to the true practice of yoga. There are actually five niyamas, all qualities that the ancients sought to encourage us to develop deeper relationships with. Now, tapas asks us to get passionate about ourselves and our dreams. Now, think about something that really gets you right in the heart center. How about your kid or a grandchild? I have my Natalie, my little dog. Do you have a special family cottage or vacation property that you have so many treasured memories around? I want you to think about something or someone that deeply matters to you, like you'd do anything for them or to support it. Now, that's the passion that I'm talking about. Tapas want you to turn that passion back on yourself. That level of care, concern, awareness, motivation to support or improve. You deserve and must have that passionate glaze. And the practice of tapas connects your heart to your outside world, to what's happening in your experience. Tapas is self-trust in action. Tapas is self-trust in action. It's the practice of not abandoning yourself. I use this story a lot when I'm leading my retreats and talking with my clients. Can you imagine there's a little girl, she's maybe about 6 or 7 years old, and she's sitting on the front porch waiting. Someone has said they're going to come and take her for ice cream. But you know what happens? Things get busy, other people need something, and the grown-up never comes and takes her for ice cream. Can you imagine how that little girl feels? Moment by moment goes by, and what she's been promised doesn't come through. Now, I know that you were a really good mom if you were ever really a mom, or you're a really good friend and you would never do that to your best friend. I know you show up for other people, but what about the little girl inside of you that's waiting for you to fulfill your promises to her? Every time you say to yourself, yeah, I'll start tomorrow, or when things calm down, I'll get to that, or I can start that program once I'm sure, everyone else has had what they need, Yeah, every time my friend chooses to scroll about booking a new vacation rather than doing her shoulder physio, she dies a little inside, my friend. Every time my other friend watches a cat video instead of doing her daily food pan, she abandons herself yet again. And you know what happens? What the really bad thing with that is? And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad or guilty, but I just want to point out how you're abandoning yourself. You're not building that trust because you teach your nervous system one thing when you don't show up for yourself. Eh, my needs are negotiable. I'm really not my priority. Now, tapas is the opposite message. It is, I matter enough to follow through. I matter enough. Yeah. So tapas is often translated as something like discipline or heat or inner fire, but it's not a punishment. It is the sacred heat that comes from consistent effort aligned with your values. So it's sacred heat coming from your consistent effort aligned with your values. Tapas is what happens when you commit to something that's meaningful to you, not what other people want or other people think you should do, but you have that passion. Tapas is what happens when you stay present, even though there's some tough stuff going on. Change is hard, and tapas requires you to stay present with that. And tapas is what happens when you let small, repeated actions transform you from the inside out. Not dramatic, I win the lottery moments, but little tiny things like doing 5 minutes of physio exercises 3 times a day, every day, or like doing a 5-minute food plan every morning, even when you didn't sleep well, or even when you're rushed to get to your hair appointment. Showing up for those small, repeated actions. This builds confidence, clarity, and vitality. Not because it gets any easier. I'll be perfectly honest in that. Tapas is demanding, but you do become more grounded. Your nervous system becomes acclimatized to the fact that you're not going to abandon her. You're not going to not show up for ice cream. And a lot of the drama quiets down. So a lot of the anxiety goes away. And discipline is getting harder to access for all of us. Midlife isn't the time of unlimited energy, right? We have a ton of hormonal shifts that are going on that never really settle down. Our roles are changing. We used to be moms, we used to be nurses, we used to be all these things. That's all going away and changing. Our brain is literally rewiring. There's a lot of hardware upgrades going on. I'm not sleeping the way I did when I was in my 30s. And yes, the joint pain is real. You're not imagining it. So when we hear discipline in social media or from other teachers saying you have to do more, you have to push harder, well, that will fail at our age. And I'm not going to apologize for that. Tapas asks for something different from us. What is the smallest, most sustainable action that honors the woman that you are becoming? I want to offer you now 3 strategies to build tapas for yourself, that passion, but without burning out. So let's go with the first strategy here. And I'm going to say we'll call it shrink the promise, but keep your commitment. Stop making big emotional promises to your future self. If you can't show up to take her out for ice cream, don't promise you're going to come take her out for ice cream. Say I'll text and say hi. You know what I mean? Instead of making these big emotional promises that sound so exciting in the moment, but you probably won't follow through, you're really going to try to set up something that you absolutely can follow through. For example, a lot of people say, okay, I'm totally going to eat clean and I'm going to go to the gym every day, which is an emotional promise. Wouldn't that be lovely if it worked out that way? But girlfriend, it probably isn't. You're not going to go from 0 to 60 overnight. So how about instead you promise yourself, I'm going to show up for 10 minutes at the same time most days. And this might mean, in the She Mindfulness program and in my mindful eating protocol, I do recommend starting with food planning, by the way. This might mean if you're going to show up for 10 minutes at the same time most days, you take that time in the morning to look at the day ahead, prioritize your goals for the day, look at your food plan. How are you going to get enough protein? What about when you have that Zoom call over lunch? If you're going out, should I check the menu at the restaurant ahead of time to plan what I'm going to order? Like giving yourself that 10 minutes. every single day. Now that might be doable. And now you can really get behind that, bring your passion to it and say, yeah, I'm going to do that for myself. Here's another example of going smaller with your commitment, but going more consistent with it. I'm going to get this house organized. Now, that's a big organize. Like if you've lived in the same house like I have for 25 years, that's a lot to try to organize everything. But how about this week? Instead of I'm going to get the house organized, I'm going to do one bathroom cupboard per day. You've got drawers, you've got your cupboards in your bathroom, in your vanity, one a day. Now, that would take you 5 minutes, if that, 5, 10 minutes. That's doable. I could commit to that. And then next month, once you kind of get there, maybe there's 5 drawers in your vanity that you've got done over the course of this month. Maybe you're going to move on to the kitchen cupboards. Before you know it, closets can get on the list. Now, by the end of the year, you've gone through every bit of crap in your house. But it was easy. It only took a few minutes at a time. Your nervous system gets that real grounding from this approach. Let me tell you another story. I had a client who needed to get a better job. Now, she felt really stuck because the economy's bad. We're older, and there's ageism in the workplace. And she's just moved, so she doesn't know a lot of people to network with. I mean, these are actual barriers, those are real circumstances. But do you know how she found tapas in this kind of ugly situation? By letting go of the big emotional ask, I need a new job now, she focused on one small change that she knew she had control over and that she knew would align with her values. And that was she needed to do more yoga. So she committed to 2 10-minute practices per week at home using YouTube or whatever. Now, what's that got to do with job hunting? How is she going to pay her bills with that? Well, my client's smart enough to know that yoga supports a healthy mind and body. So committing to that practice at home 2 times per week has totally changed her relationship to how she makes promises to herself. She loves how she feels when she's on the mat. So she brought passion to her decision to start yoga classes. And she was loving and caring around that. And her nervous system responded to that. My client was amazed that when she kept up her commitment to yoga for 2 months, her brain started magically, really quite magically, begin noticing like coincidences and ideas that she was off her radar completely before. All of a sudden, she felt more hopeful about getting a better job because she started noticing wanted ads. People started messaging her on Facebook, things like that. And she brought that hopeful energy with her to her job hunt, to her interviews. When she put out feelers, with the guy that makes her coffee every morning, with the person she hired to shovel her driveway, she started putting out feelers. She had a different energy. Now, consistency, these little steps that we find from our passion that we practice through tapas builds enthusiasm, not the other way around. Motivation comes from momentum. So tapas grows from keeping these small promises repeatedly, but out of love and caring. So that's our first strategy. Lots of stuff to work with there. Number 2, I want you to create structure that protects your energy. Us women are not good at protecting our energy, girlfriend. Now, remember, discipline isn't about willpower. It's about structure. It's about design. The same skills that you would bring to bear on planning your best friend's surprise party, or you're planning an amazing Thai vacation. I'm going to use those skills to put back on yourself. So tapas isn't just about the love. I mean, it's a lot about the love, but there is this fire too, a deep passion to see something birthed, a deep caring about how things turn out. We always think about looking externally to find that kind of validation or affection, but girlfriend, it's right here for you. And I know you can do this because I've watched us women single-handedly manage families, work teams, soccer tournaments, Sunday schools. It's our turn, my friend, to reapply those skills in our own lives. So, like any successful manager, you'll want to utilize the assets you have to your best advantage. So you want to ask yourself when you're planning your actions around tapas, what time of day would support me best in this? What kind of distractions do I need to remove before they derail me? And what kind of decisions can I automate? If I make a decision once, can I just repeat that instead of having to face every decision every day? Now, questions like this remove friction. They make things less exhausting. They reduce decision fatigue. Let me go back to my food planning, which I do recommend for mindful eating, and I go into great detail in my She Mindfulness program. Here it is. At 8 a.m., your brain is fairly fresh, and doing that food plan for 10 minutes or so is not too much of a strain. But by 5:30 p.m., if you're already starving and exhausted, and you've already made approximately 30,000 decisions that day, your executive brain, where you plan, is pretty much toast. So who could blame you by then for just ordering in pizza? It's not a matter of discipline. It's a matter of not being loving and structural in your approach using tapas. So if you have that big leg workout on your calendar already, and you've previously used tapas to bring that fiery passion to the goal of aging strong, then you just push go. No decision is required. It's on your calendar. You've already decided that means a lot to you. Just go. And if you remove the friction, you remove the debate and the drama. So planning smart, installing structure, it's a way to love yourself, to practice tapas. So don't expect that you'll magically develop iron willpower in the moment because I promise you, when it comes time to make the dinner you've planned, or to get to that leg workout, or to hit the yoga mat, there'll be a million excuses in your brain why you can't. I don't want to, whatever. I mean, I have to do this all day long. I have to fight with my habit brain all day long. I'm too tired. I don't have time. It could be put off till tomorrow. My toddler brain tries everything to distract me, but I have practiced tapas for a long time, and I know I have a higher calling. I have to really care about my priorities. I have passion for my work, for myself, for my goals. So, planning. And as I said before, in the She Mindfulness program, I have the documents, the worksheets, the step-by-step support so you can start using the power of tapas in your own life. Now, my third strategy is to track your integrity. Most people want us to just talk about the results, but I want to talk more about the integrity. See, midlife women often quit because they don't see results fast enough. The questions that we often ask ourselves are things like, hey, is this working yet? Have I lost all the weight? Did I make the big income that I set my goal to make this year? Or is my house perfectly organized 2 days after setting the goal? We're a little impatient, admit it. But honestly, and this is the truth, who cares if you lose the weight? Who cares if I make six figures a year in my business? Who cares if my house is perfectly organized? These things will not make me happy. They will not make your life perfect. It's just not going to happen. The human mind is not wired like that. Life in general is not like that. The reason that you would employ tapas and make the plans and practice self-discipline as self-care is because of what you learn and experience along the way, because you showed up for that little girl waiting for ice cream. The more important question as you put this into practice is, did I show up in integrity with myself today? What were my wins today? What went really well today? How am I feeling about my efforts today? So the integrity behind the actions is more important than the end result. Were you acting in alignment with your passions? Are you taking those little steps that you promised yourself you would take? Tapas builds when your self-worth is tied to showing up, not necessarily achieving. And that's totally different than I was socialized. It was all about the grades in school. It was all about getting the promotion at work. It was all about, right now, like the Google reviews or something like that. But the fact that I show up week after week and make this podcast, or that I show up to my yoga class, there's only 2 people that show up, but they get the best class ever. That's what feeds my tapas, not the metrics. The nervous system doesn't read the scale. It doesn't read your income tax. Your nervous system learns from the feelings. And especially if you, on purpose, generate the feelings of satisfaction and compassion, that's what the nervous system builds your life on. So show up. Don't worry about the end result. Okay, we covered a lot, so let's recap quickly. True self-care is structural. Such an important point, my friend. Please write this down. It's not about escaping from your life. It's about building a life you don't need to escape from. You might want to take a vacation. You might want to go for massage, but you don't need it to get away. This is the number one mistake I see my clients making, this escapism. So how do you reclaim your power? We talked about number one, make commitments that you can follow through on. Small steps equals sustainability. And I can guide you with this in the She Mindfulness program. Step number two, create a plan that aligns with your true values. Don't go with the crowd. You're going to have to say no to some invites or shift the way things have always been done because you want some change. So get ready for that, to plan ahead. And number three, create a reward system for sticking to your commitments, not worrying about the final metric. That's not what's going to build you your motivation. Tapas is an ancient practice that guides you towards a more compassionate and productive relationship with your current life. It isn't about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to yourself again and again, moment by moment, through these small, faithful actions. That's tapas. That's self-care. And that's how this busy, exhausted woman began to feel successful again. Not because I did more, but because I stopped letting myself down. And if you would like to support yourself in this sort of work, to practice tapas, to learn how to plan, to learn how to support yourself with integrity, not self-aggression, then the She Mindfulness program offers a structured step-by-step framework. You can lose the weight. You can get better sleep. You can tackle that leg workout. Tapas is built right into every lesson that I teach in the She Mindfulness program. So I hope you found today's podcast helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Please share it with your friends because you know all of us are exhausted and running in circles. And if you want more information on She, I'll put a link in the show notes. Have a great day, everybody. Hey, girlfriend, if you're really enjoying this podcast, and I sincerely hope you are, would you consider booking a call with me? I mean, I melted off the menopausal weight. I got my strength and energy back at 60 years old, and now I'm trying to help hundreds of women feel stronger, happy, and more energized with my She Mindfulness program. This is what you already know from yoga, organized into a deceptively simple, step-by-step protocol. For a short time, you're invited to book a free 30-minute consult where we